you've got to go out and do really interesting things, important things, inventive things, because this world, real or imagined, this world has some problems that we need you to drop everything and solve. So go ahead, take your pick from the world's worst buffet. I want to pass along a piece of advice that Bill Clinton offered me a little over a decade ago. Actually, when he said it, it felt less like advice and more like a direct order. What he said was, turn toward the problems you see. You have to engage and turn towards the problems that you see. Except it sounded like, turn towards the problems that you see. But when he said this to me, he literally turned his body for emphasis towards me. No, listen, it seemed kind of simple at the time, but the older I get, the more wisdom I see in this. That is what I want to urge you to do today, to turn towards the problems that you see and engage with them. Walk right up to them, look them in the eye, and then look yourself in the eye and decide what you're going to do about them. Now, you see some tough things out there, but you also see life-changing joy, and it all changes you. There was a refugee crisis back in '09 that I read about in this amazing article in the New York Times. People were streaming across the border of Zimbabwe to a little town in northern South Africa called Messina. Well, I was working in South Africa at the time, so I went up to Messina to see for myself what was going on. I spent a day speaking with women who had made this perilous journey across the Limpopo River, dodging bandits on one side, crocodiles in the river, bandits on the other. Every woman that I spoke to that day had been raped, every single one, on one side of the river or both. And at the end of my time there, I met a woman who was so positive, she was so joyful. She had just been given her papers, so she'd been granted political asylum in South Africa. And in the midst of this joyful conversation, I mustered up my courage and I said, "Ma'am, do you mind my asking, were you assaulted on your journey to South Africa?" And she replied, still smiling, "Oh yes, I was raped, but I have my papers now, and those bastards didn't get my dignity." Human beings will take your breath away. They will teach you so much, but you have to engage. I only had that experience because I went there myself. It was difficult in many ways, but of course that's the point. The point is not to become some kind of well-rounded, high-minded voyeur. The point is to eliminate your blind spots, the things that keep us from grasping the bigger picture. And look, even though I grew up in this neighborhood, in this incredible multicultural neighborhood that was a little rough at that time, I find myself here before you as a middle-aged American white male movie star. I don't have a clue where my blind spots begin and end. But looking at the world as it is and engaging with it is the first step towards identifying our blind spots. And that's when we can really start to understand ourselves better and begin to solve some problems. And with that as your goal, there's a few more things I hope you'll keep in mind. First, you're going to fail sometimes, and that's a good thing. For all the amazing successes I've been lucky to share in, few things have shaped me more than the auditions that Ben and I used to go on as young actors, where we'd get on a bus, we'd show up in New York, we'd wait our turn, we'd cry our hearts out for a scene, and then be told, "Okay, thanks," meaning game over. We used to call it being okay, thanks. And those experiences became our armor. Failure is good. Benjamin Affleck once said, "Judge me by how good my good ideas are, not how bad my bad ideas are." You've got to suit up in your armor. You've got to get ready to sound like a total fool. Not having an answer isn't embarrassing. It's an opportunity. Don't be afraid to ask questions. You got to keep listening. The world wants to hear your ideas, good and bad, but today is not the day you switch from receive to transmit. What are you going to be a part of? What is the problem that you will try to solve? Whatever your answer, it is not going to be easy. Sometimes your work will hit a dead end. Sometimes your work will be measured in half steps. Sometimes your work will make you wear a white sequined military uniform and make love to Michael Douglas. All right, maybe that's just my work. But for all of you here, your work starts today. There are potentially trillions of human beings who will someday exist or not, whose fate in large part depends on the choices you make, on your ideas, on your grit and persistence and willingness to engage. So I hope you'll turn toward the problem of your choosing. I hope you'll turn toward the problem of your choosing. I hope you'll drop everything, and I hope you'll solve it.